Okay, I think we got it. Oh, nope. There we go. All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I've got a joke for you this morning. It's a dad joke, so I'm not promising that it's a good joke. What did the fish say when it was swimming along and it ran into a wall? Damn. You get it? You get it? All right. Yeah, some groans. All right. That's the appropriate response for a dad joke, is some groans. So today's talk is called DAM, D-A-M. And what inspired it was a couple of weeks ago, I shared with you this quote from Charles Fillmore, one of the co-founders of Unity. He says, "The mind of humankind is like a clear stream that flows from some lofty mountain. It has nothing at its point of origin to corrupt or to distort it, but as it flows out into the plane of existence, it experiences the obstruction of doubt and fear. And it is here that dams are built." So it's a metaphor, right? Up high on this lofty mountain, that's our source, God, divine mind. And it's a pure, clear stream flowing down that mountain through us and through our lives. But as we go through that plane of experience, stuff happens, doesn't it? We've got some cows on the bank muddying up the waters. Maybe a storm comes through and blows debris into it. Maybe we have to build a bridge over the troubled water for a time. So this metaphor talks about how as we go through our life experience, that sometimes we build up these dams or blocks in our consciousness. And we've all done this, oftentimes without even knowing it. And these dams contribute to feeling like we're stuck, like we're disconnected from God. Yet in this image that Charles paints and in Unity teachings, we are taught that we can never truly be disconnected, that God is within us always, but it can sure feel like we're disconnected, can't it? So these dams that we build up in our consciousness, they can lead to some unfavorable conditions in our lives. And so in order to live in alignment with the divine within, we have to tend to that stream, don't we? We have to remove the blocks that impede our flow. We have to dismantle the dams that we have built through doubt and fear. And it's not easy. It's not easy, especially if we seek to live full, abundant lives. Because the thing is, tending to our inner stream, tending to our consciousness requires us to be brave and tenacious, to keep at it again and again and again. They say that life begins at the end of our comfort zones. You've heard that before? Yeah. I think that's true. But the thing is, each time we step outside of those comfort zones, each time we try to do something that's new or hard or a little bit scary, what happens? We run face first into that dam, don't we? Just like the fish. Because stepping outside of our comfort zones brings up all that stuff. All of that stuff that's happened in our life that tells us maybe we can't. It gets brought up when we're trying to do something new. But here's the opportunity. When we step outside of our comfort zones, when we seek to claim our abundance and our good and live fuller and fuller lives, we give ourselves the opportunity to level up, to dismantle old beliefs that are no longer serving us, to heal, to transform, and to experience more and more of the goodness of God. So today we're talking about dams, how they got there, and what we can do about it. So principle number 3, I create my life through the power of my thoughts. It tells us how important our consciousness is, that we live from within out. So tending to our inner stream, tending to our inner consciousness is the most important thing that we can do to experience transformation in our lives. Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, says this: "You do not have a problem except the one that is in your own mind, and you put it there." Oof! Myrtle's not taking it easy on us, is she? You know, people say that Charles was the mind and Myrtle was the heart. I've read a lot of the letters that Myrtle wrote. She was direct. She was very direct. And I think it's because she experienced for herself the power of these teachings to heal and transform her. And so when people wrote to her about these issues that they were having, she knew the solution and she wanted them to have it. And so she did not mince words, did she? All right. All due respect to Myrtle. Yes, we put them there, but at one point in our lives, these dams that we built might have been really helpful for us. Maybe at one point in your life, you didn't have a lot of support, and you learned that it's all up to you, that if you wanted something, you couldn't rely on anyone else. You were the one that had to make it happen. And maybe that dam helped you to take responsibility and to be successful all on your own. But now you're bumping up against that dam. And that same dam that helped you in the past now might prevent you from being vulnerable with somebody, for asking for help when you need it. Maybe at a young age, we learn to hide our emotions or our desires to keep from getting into trouble. And so we learn to never ask what we want, or maybe not even think that we want something. Sometimes our dams are because we have what Gay Hendricks calls an upper limit problem. Gay Hendricks is a psychologist and the author of books such as The Big Leap, Learning to Love Yourself, and The Corporate Mystic. So according to him, we all have this upper limit problem, and it's this maximum amount of goodness that we are willing to accept for ourselves. Sounds kind of interesting, doesn't it? But if you think about it, don't you have a maximum amount of money that you think is possible for you? Do you have a maximum amount of love you think can flow through your life? Maybe you have an upper limit on what the quality of your relationships could be, what the quality of your health could be. So did you know that for a long time, it was believed that nobody could run a mile in less than 4 minutes? The world record holder ran it in 4 minutes and 1.4 seconds. They held that record for 9 years. And it was common thought that the human body is just not capable of running a mile any faster than that. Until one day in 1954, when somebody ran the mile in 3 minutes, 59.6 seconds. Less than half a second faster than 4 minutes. Here's the amazing thing. Once that mental construct was broken, once that upper limit was shown to not be true, once that dam was torn down, the floodgates opened. 9 years, someone held the record for 4 minutes, 1.4 seconds. And 45 days after somebody broke that record and ran a mile in faster than 4 minutes, the record got broken again. And on it continued. Once the idea of that upper limit, this is the fastest, got torn down in our collective consciousness, all of a sudden, those records kept getting broken. And within a few years, 9 years this record was held, and within just a few years, running a mile faster than 4 minutes was a common occurrence for elite runners. The power of our consciousness and the barrier that we can set for ourselves, right? So it's not just our individual upper limit problems, it's also the upper limit of the collective consciousness of what society says is possible. So we build up dams for a variety of reasons, and maybe at one point, a dam that you have in your consciousness really helped you make sense of the world. But now as your spiritual awareness is expanding, you find yourself rubbing up against it a little bit. Maybe it's blocking you a little bit now. Charles Fillmore says it is the mind that forms the bars, chains, and walls which confine the soul. And it is the mind that breaks them down. So however those dams were formed, we're going to talk about how to break them down. But first, who has run face first into your dam lately? Anybody? Couple of us? All right. So if you haven't, I want to give you some clues to help you recognize that you're bumping up against one of these mental blocks. Because sometimes we run face first into it and it's obvious, right? Other times it's not so obvious because these things are so ingrained in us that we don't even recognize they're there. So here are some clues to recognize if you've got a dam that is looking to be torn down. Number one is to watch the stories that you tell. So do you ever get together for lunch or chat on the phone with somebody you haven't talked to in a while? And you know, when you're catching up, you're kind of swapping stories. Oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. Do you ever notice yourself telling the same story again and again with different friends over a certain season of your life? Maybe about something that happened or something that you really want, but oh, it's just not working out yet. So watch the stories that you tell when you're talking to other people. So the most obvious place that we see this is in the experience of grief. So if you've lost a loved one, if you think back to that time, or maybe you're going through it right now, you find yourself in conversation telling the whole story, right? You tell the story of the diagnosis and all the treatments that you tried, and this happened, and then this happened, and this is how it ended up. And then over time, as you process that grief, that story gets a little shorter and a little shorter and a little shorter. When we keep retelling stories, that is a sign to us that something is in process within us. So that's your clue that there's a dam there. There's a dam there that's asking to be torn down. Another clue is when you start generalizing. So when you start using words like always or never, oh, she does this all the time. It's never like that. That never works out. Oh, this always happens. So when you start using those generalizing words, that's a sign. Maybe you're rubbing up against that dam. Or have you ever had the experience where you say something and then immediately after it comes out of your mouth, you think, why the heck did I just say that? Anyone ever have that experience? Another sign you're bumping up against a dam. From the Gospel of Matthew 12:34, for the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. Sometimes we don't realize what's going on in our consciousness until we catch ourselves saying something out loud. Another clue is to pay attention to how your body reacts in certain situations or in certain conversations. If you find yourself, whenever a certain topic comes up, getting like this emotional reaction to it, that's a clue that you're bumping up against a dam. So for me, the best evidence that I'm ready to do some work in consciousness is the thoughts that are going around in my head. So there are 5 common thoughts that tell us we've got a block in consciousness that's ready to be released. Number 1 is some version of, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. Somebody else could do it better. I can't do this. Anyone ever think that before? Okay, good, not just me. Number 2, I don't deserve it. Anyone ever rub up against that one? I'm not worthy of this. Number 3, that's just the way things are. This is an expression of what in Unity they call victim consciousness. Life is happening to me, I have no control. But do we have control? Principle number 3, right? I create my reality through my thoughts. So if you start hearing that thought that this is just the way things are and things are never going to change, that's a sign. Number 4, most common thought is it's too late. I'm too old. I never went to college. Can't go back now. I missed that opportunity. I got fired from that job once, so I can never do that again. It's too late. And number 5, this can be a hard one for people. What will people think? I'll make a fool of myself. Those are our clues. All right, so now let me ask you, how many of us have run into a dam lately? Now that you know the signs, right? Okay. So most of you know that I've done 2 years of ministerial school. I've got a little less than a year left. In order to even get to the point where you can apply to Unity's ministerial program, you have to do 18 prerequisite classes that are all deep, profound spiritual work. Each of these classes is 6 weeks long, 18 classes, 6 weeks. So that's how much inner spiritual work I did before I even applied to the program. And then our entire first year of the program is more personal, spiritual, deep work. So let me ask you, when do you think the last time I ran face first into a dam was? Thank you. Exactly. So my most recent dam that I've had to overcome was applying for this very job right here. Because those thoughts of, I can't do it, right? That thought of, well, I have classmates who have way more experience in churches and are already being spiritual leaders. They would be so much better to do this. I have people in this congregation who might have been studying unity principles and on this path possibly longer than I've been alive. Who am I to stand up here and think that I have anything to say to you? So these are all different specific thoughts, but it's all really the same thought, isn't it? It's number one, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. So what I'm going to share with you, and by the way, this experience of actually being offered a job and still thinking that you're not qualified for it is so common in modern society that there's a name for it. It's called imposter syndrome. You heard of that before? So I want to share with you the steps that I use and used most recently to overcome these mental barriers and these mental blocks. So I'm loving this dam metaphor so much that I'm keeping it going. So the 3 steps are an acronym, DAM, D-A-M. Easy, right? Okay, so the first one is deny. So when we run across a block, our first step is deny. Denials are a teaching that Unity has taught since the beginning. Here's what Charles says about them. He says, denial is the mental process of erasing from one's consciousness the false beliefs that you have held in mind. It is a clearing away of the mental underbrush so that the new word of truth may be planted. So a denial is not about saying, it's not about being in denial, right? It's not about saying, oh, this isn't happening. It's denying that that thought, that situation, that circumstance has any power over you. It's saying, I don't have to choose this thought. I can choose an empowering one. That's what a denial is. So it's not denying the situation that I'm sitting here faced with my calling, pursuing it, knowing this is the right place for me, wanting to step into it, and yet my mind's saying, but what if you can't do it? I'm not denying that that's happening, but I'm denying that that thought has any basis in reality. So some examples of denials that you can use. An easy one, a classic one from Unity is I give no power to this thought. So you have the thought and you deny it. I give no power to this thought. You can get a little bit more specific. You can say, I deny any thoughts of not enough. I deny the idea that it can ever be too late for me. One of the most profound teachings that I've found in working with these types of thoughts and these types of barriers is from Byron Katie. Has anybody studied any of her work? Oh, changed my life. So Byron Katie, her website, I think is just thework.com or maybe thework.org. She has all of these worksheets that you can work through to do some of this work in consciousness. But the basis of her teachings is that there's some questions that you ask yourself when you're starting to believe those negative thoughts, when you're starting to believe, maybe I really am not good enough. And the question that you ask, the first one is this true? To which when you're in that mindset, you say, yes, of course it's true that I'm not good enough, right? Because you're in that mindset. But then there's the second question. Can you be absolutely certain that that's true? And man, that's a humbling question. When you really sit with that and you really take that in and you really come in with the intention to be honest with yourself, and you ask, can I be absolutely certain that that's true? Just helps you wipe that right out, right? So the denial that I tend to use more often these days, I don't remember where I got this from, so I wish I could credit whoever told it to me, but it's that is not a helpful thought, or that is not a helpful story. This one's so easy because it works in every situation, right? Maybe I can't do it. Well, that's not helpful. It's a nice way to interrupt that thought pattern and then move into step 2, which is the A for affirm. So first we deny, we interrupt that negative thought pattern. We remind ourselves that that is not the capital T truth of who we are. And then we step into A, affirm. H. Emily Cady, who was a New Thought pioneer, she wrote a book called Lessons in Truth. 100 years later, it is still a textbook used in Unity. She says to practice denial is to let go of old beliefs, while affirmation helps to build new thought patterns based on truth. So it's not just a positive statement, right? You hear about affirmations everywhere, right? They teach affirmations in kindergarten these days. So it's not just in Unity context, it's not just a positive statement. It is a declaration of what is true at a spiritual level. So let me give you some examples. I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. That's Myrtle Fillmore's classic one. I have all that I need within me. I bring the wholeness of who I am to this situation. The universe is conspiring for my goodness and benefit. Spirit, through me, heals and transforms. I am in alignment with my highest good. So an affirmation is a declaration of what is true from a spiritual level. The Bible tells us in John 7:24, do not judge by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly. Again and again, the teachings of Jesus tell us to look for the higher reality. Look beyond the surface. Sometimes it's deeper, sometimes it's higher. It's hard when you're using metaphors to really explain the spiritual, isn't it? But what they tell us again and again, and not just Jesus, but other master teachers, is look beyond what appears to be real in front of you. Find the higher truth. Align yourself, align your consciousness with that higher reality. I am a child of God. I give no power to thoughts of not enough. All right, so that's D and A, deny, affirm, and then M stands for move. So my move, after I did the work in consciousness, was to say yes, to show up to the interview, to say yes to the offer, to listen to my inner guidance, and act on my affirmation. So if your affirmation is, I am a child of God, how does that show up in your life? If you truly believe that you are in alignment with your highest good, what action will you take? So move is all about taking action in faith. Set the plans in motion. Say yes to the invitation. Start packing your boxes. Send in that application. Deny, affirm, and then move. It's doing what St. Teresa of Avila said. Christ has no body now but yours. No hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes that look with compassion on the world. Yours are the feet which walk to do good. Yours are the hands that bless the world. All right, so when we're like a fish running face first into our dams, we deny that these thoughts have any power over us. We affirm that the spiritual truth of who we are, and then we move, take action in faith. Because we build these dams up unconsciously, but the second we become aware of them, it is now our work to tear them down, to get rid of the blocks and the barriers from that inner stream of goodness that is spirit and allow it to flow more freely through us. And dam is how we do it. So let's move in now to our meditation. Take a moment to just get comfortable, feet on the floor, back against the chair. And let's take a nice slow inhale together and release. Take another slow inhale. And release. As we settle into our chairs, settle into this moment here and now, we turn our awareness inward. We let our eyes relax behind our eyelids. We let our tongue drop, pulling it away from the roof of our mouth. We let our shoulders fall. We let our hips relax as we fully trust that this chair has got us. And we let our minds relax as we trust that spirit has this. We sit with the awareness that sometimes we have thoughts we like and sometimes we have thoughts that we don't, but at the end of the day, the truth of who I am, the truth of who you are, who we are, is bigger than our thoughts. That we are the observer, watching them float by. And if at any point there's one that we don't like, we have the power to choose it, to choose a different path. We rest in the awareness that the power of our thought to shape our reality is real. And it can begin right here, right now. So I want to invite you. Maybe it's one I said, maybe it's one that came to you while I was speaking, to choose a short affirmation, knowing that the words are not as important as the feeling you put behind it, but a short statement of truth. A short statement of truth that will serve to help you tear down whatever dam is in your way right now. And repeat it silently to yourself. Repeat it once more in your head, and then take a deep breath into it. And as you rest in the silence for a few moments, allow that affirmation to be your guide, your support, your truth. Now begin to bring your awareness back into your body, wiggling fingers and toes, stretching your neck, rolling your shoulders. And as you take your time coming out of your meditation, I'll affirm that you know the truth and the truth sets you free. And so it is.